we do have this internal compass, this inner voice that's guiding us on our own. I was gonna say journey, Mandy, but then I was like,
adventure.
Welcome, everyone, to another live episode edition of Adventures in Business Live. Mandy, how are we doing today?
Hi, Amani. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Amani, I feel like you've had a busy day so far. Do you want to just take a deep breath? Do you want to have a moment of silence? Like, should we just
Yes.
have a reset? We can just close our eyes and just have like a 5 second,
No reset. No reset. Let's go.
no, you're just going. You're just going. You're just building on that dopamine release. Just
Oh
go.
my goodness. You have
Go.
no idea. No
Go.
idea.
What exciting thing happened to you this weekend? I'll do mine after
I
you do yours.
played in a pickleball tournament this weekend.
Oh, shit. How are you feeling? Are you sore? How are you
A
feeling?
little sore. Yeah, I need to play more often so that I'm less sore. But it was fun. It was a fundraiser for this animal rescue here in Las
Nice.
Vegas. So it was the pickleball, and it was fun. We got to the round of 16 and then lost, but it was still good. I'm ready to play again.
Oh, good. I love that. What's with the curling too? Are you pickleballing as much as you're curling, or you're just curling was just like a one-time thing?
Curling was a one-time thing, but I've added it to my list of potential things to learn. I would go back and learn again. I was
Mhm.
very sore after curling. Like that was a lot. So that's on the list too. We'll see which one I choose to really pursue. But pickleball is a
Okay.
little easier, probably a little more social and warmer.
And warmer, much
Yeah.
warmer. Well, I have an upper body injury right now,
Uh-oh.
Amani.
What
So it
happened?
started last week on Wednesday. I thought I had like a piece of glass in my arm, or like I got bit by a bug. You know,
Mm,
when you feel like you got stung or something.
yeah, yeah.
And what I have learned is I have a little pinched nerve in my neck, which is
Mm,
causing issues in my upper back and then like around my left arm. So I got to get x-rays and I got to do physical therapy. And
mm.
I wasn't going to let it stop me from working out. So Friday I did lower body and then I rested over the weekend. But then
Good.
today I went in, I did lower body and they gave me the old lady treatment. It was amazing. For the first time in my life, I wore one of those belts that had a chain on it.
Yeah.
Have you seen these things?
Mm-hmm,
And we
mm-hmm.
attach the kettlebell to it. And it's meant to like elongate your spine and like your neck and stuff, which I've never used before. It was a very funny contraption. But I'm so proud of myself. So I was still able to get the workout in, but I didn't inflame any already inflamed parts of my body. But I'm working through that right now. And it's a good reminder about tech neck. It's a good reminder to like keep your shoulders back and your neck back. It's also a good reminder to not like hunch over and look at my
Yeah.
screen, which I do all the time. And it's not good. So I'm just PSA, everybody. It
Good.
catches up with you.
Okay.
Ergonomically set up your desk and your office and get your stretches in because these things catch up. They catch up.
Yes. I'm on board. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about our guest today. And we're just kind of meeting her for the first time. She was referred from our good friend, Lyndall. So I figure let's bring Laurie in now, and then we can talk to her and get to know her together. How do you feel about that?
I love that. Laurie Luh, welcome to the show.
Yes. So welcome to the show. We'll give you a round of applause here. There we go. You're on screen with us. I have a couple questions to start us off. How are you doing today, first of all?
I'm so good, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, we are excited to have you. I'm very curious. You are a Delaware duck. You're a duck. And I'm curious, how did you decide to go to Delaware? And then how did you make your way out west?
So deciding to go to Delaware was a mom and dad thing.
I can relate. I can relate.
I was born and raised in Delaware, so went to the University of Delaware and just loved it. I mean, it is a great place to grow up. A lot of great friends. I've had some dear friends since I was 10 years old that I was just texting with this weekend. So go to Delaware if you get a chance.
Okay. If I were to ask my music business students where Delaware was on the map, they would not be able to find it. They would not be able to find it. But I could tell them it's just north of Maryland, adjacent to Pennsylvania. So I know where it is, been through there because I grew up in Maryland. So that's why whenever I see Delaware somewhere close, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So, yes.
Yeah.
Now, my next question is, what was your favorite part about working on the Bernie Mac show? One of my favorite shows.
Oh my gosh. Well, Bernie Mac.
Yes, yes, I agree.
Yeah, but that's when I worked at Fox many, many, many years ago, probably a lifetime or two ago. And I got to work on Bernie Mac and the 70s show, House. Yeah, we got to do some Malcolm in the Middle. Yeah, which I
Yeah,
think they just rebooted. Yeah.
they did. Yeah,
Mhm. Good
yeah.
stuff.
Great stuff. Yes, yes. So those are my kind of two. I just had to ask you those right away. I'll let Manny kind of take the lead now. We'll go back and forth and just I got a lot of questions. So we'll play a little tennis or pickleball as we say. So go ahead, Mandy.
Pickleball, pickleball. I want to go back to the way back machine, not the way back, but just the midway back machine. I want to explore your HR background a little bit. So, you created the entire HR operations, the infrastructure at Participant Media, which produced some spectacular documentaries. For small businesses without an HR department, what are the top two or three HR ops infrastructure items that they should have in place? And I'm not trying to should or shame anybody, but I know as a small business owner, sometimes you hit the ground running and you don't implement HR things until you have to or until you're having an episode or a situation. And we have a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to the show. So I'm just curious, like what are a couple infrastructure operational HR things people should think about when they're setting up their business?
Yeah, you're asking a great question. When I was at Participant, I was one of the first 10 hires.
Mhm.
So back then, HR was not my only job. It
Mhm.
was HR, it was operations, it was development. And I think that's the case in a lot of the places
Yeah.
where I coach and even sometimes still consult now. There somebody needs to at least do payroll, or onboard in some way, but there's not often a lot of thought process to it. And so as soon as you're going to start a company and as soon as you're going to start bringing in employees, I think it's important to just identify a person, hopefully that has some people skills that can run that side of the business and train them to some degree. I mean, we're living in a world where you can do a lot online these days and you can ask a lot of questions to your phone and computer and you can find out a lot of things. So I think performance management is an important piece to get going sooner rather than later. As a coach, I know that accountability is a big deal and goal setting is a big deal. So we often will fly the plane while we're building it when we're starting in a business. I think we do that as entrepreneurs as well, and that's cool. But as much as you can have someone just kind of raising their hand and saying, have you thought about this as it relates to people, performance management, goal setting, it's gonna get you going pretty soon. And then, I mean, payroll and what we call HRIS systems, which is the back of the house when it comes to HR. Just pick one. They're all pretty much the same until you get to the Cadillac versions of them later on in your business. But just pick one and go.
Mhm. No, that's good. That's great advice. I remember when I was trying to figure out payroll and I was talking with my accountant, there were so many options and that's what I did. I'm like, I just picked one. And I've been with the same one since, but like it can feel overwhelming, like where you don't know what to do. Well, you just said something that brought something else up for me is the performance management. And I'm curious your take on this. So, over the years, whether I was working for a large corporation and I was a leader or just for my own company, I used to think that performance reviews were like the 360 review and it was once a year. And what I've learned now about my business is some people don't want to review at all. That doesn't matter to them. You can just give them some feedback along the way and they're fine. Other people, like some of the Gen Z people that work for me, they want a quarterly review. They want to know where they stand. They want feedback. And then I've got other people that like once a year is totally fine. So how are you seeing the evolution of performance management come about?
Yeah, that's a great question. My clients will tell you that I'm a huge fan of one-on-ones. So I think they're more important than a performance review. I think a bit. I know you're married, Mandi, and I think about it in terms of, can you imagine if you and your husband were getting together just quarterly and checking in on how things were going, how that would work out, for your partnership? I
No.
really think it's important for us to be having regular conversations, and that feedback should just be part of that. So
Yeah.
in coaching, I'm holding you accountable. It's one of my jobs. So if we figure out what you want out of your career, out of your business, I'm going to help you create some action steps. And then every time we meet, it's one of the first pieces of conversation on the agenda. I think that should be done when you're managing someone, so that there aren't any surprises along the way. And the more you're having conversation with someone, the easier it is to actually say, like, hey, in that meeting yesterday when you said this, or hey, I noticed there was a report you were supposed to have due on Tuesday and I haven't seen it yet. It doesn't seem so out of the blue because you're having regular conversations. The trust has been built. There's some, how was your weekend, and getting to know each other going on. So the person feels like you're on their side.
Yeah. And then you just said something else that brought something up for me. It's feedback. I just feel like learning how to give feedback and learning how to accept feedback is a whole other coachable thing. So what has been your experience in teaching people how to give and receive feedback?
Yeah, I used to do trainings on this.
Tell
Yeah,
us, tell us.
many, 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 many moons ago. But this is the way I see feedback. It's still communication. And if we take the stigma and the fear away from it, we all actually want feedback. We don't want it shamed and blamed. We don't want it thrown in our faces if we've done something wrong. We certainly don't want it publicly. But in private, if you were to come to me and say, hey, really loved you on that podcast, are you open to a few pieces of advice from me? As someone who's been at it for a long time, I would be so grateful to hear, get this camera, try this microphone, whatever it is, or you blink a lot. I don't care.
I
But
blink a lot. Look,
you know,
I do. Yeah.
smiling, those types of things, if done appropriately, are gifts, and we should see them that way. Also, to do a little practice up front. Most of the time, I am sitting down with my clients and saying, let's get a rhythm together. There's a lot out there. Again, you can do searches. SBI is a popular one, Coin's a popular one, but there's feedback models that will help you just script out quick bullets as to taking the heat out of it and just sharing what really happened as you perceived it, and then the impact that it had in that moment. And then, what an open-ended question. Let's talk about what we can do about this and how we can make some changes. It's going to go a long way. And the more you practice it, the easier it gets.
Yeah. Put in the
Right.
reps. That's great.
Yeah. My question, I have a couple, well, I have a bunch of them, but the next ones are, what was the inspiration behind co-founding Mimosa Lotus?
Because you went back. Oh, I love the most. Do you know what I'm so bummed about? I have very few regrets in life. I think we should try to have very few regrets overall. But my partner in that, Aaron, and I really regret not holding on to that website just for the time capsule of it all. But when both of us left Participant, we wanted to start something. This was 2013. For me anyway, she might have been a year or two before. We wanted something online that felt a bit like a hybrid between us business executives and something that was a little bit more soulful and led a little bit more with your inner work. Yeah. And so we thought Mimosa Lotus would be a fun way to do that because, I mean, who doesn't like those two words together? It just,
Right?
yeah, it seems like fun. And so I still have the image. You may have been able to find it, Amani, but if like it was like a desk on a beach with some
Mhm.
sunglasses or whatever. It was really
Mhm.
cute. And we had different people that would come on and write articles for us and we wrote as well. It actually is a bit full circle because I'm doing some similar things now just on my own with a different name.
Got it. Got it. So
Yeah.
I discovered that you journal consistently and you have lots of journals. And if your journals could ask you a question based on everything you have written about, what would that question be and why?
The journals could ask me a question.
I know it's a little bit complex, but you got it. You got it.
Yeah. Well, I'll say, and I'm going to tap dance for a second, that I think journaling is one of the greatest things people can do.
Mm.
I
Amen.
really do not have to be a writer whatsoever. There's a lot of research back there that says it actually is therapy. So free therapy. You have a ticker tape going on up here, and it is absolutely telling you stories all day long. Most of them are fearful. Most of them aren't true. Most of them are the same things as yesterday. And you don't notice it until you get it down on paper. I think if more people journaled, I may be out of a job because for myself, I think my journal, I just walked myself into the answer, Amani. I I think my journal would probably tell me that I've been saying the same things and thinking the same things and in a lot of ways doing the same things for 15 years, which is as long as I've been journaling for. And the journal would probably say, these are up for review. And let's have a look at these and see if it's still what you want to be doing. And is what you've been doing going to get you where you want to go?
Now, for someone who is in business, you have a unique background where you come from the world of English and writing. How has that helped you form your business identity?
I remember when I first decided to become an English major at the University of Delaware.
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of the inner voice, listening to our inner voice, talking to that inner voice and really allowing it to get louder. And I did have an inner voice moment when I took a first or second level English class where you wrote a thesis. Remember, you kind of wrote a statement at the top of your paper, and then you had to back it up throughout the paper. And to me, that just seemed like such a good idea for life. If we're going to say something, we've got to prove it somehow. And I thought that and the creativity that went with being an English major, I ended up befriending the dean of the English department at the University of Delaware because I found out in college that I was dyslexic, which
Mm.
was a huge relief for me. Like, oh, that explains a lot. And then I happened to meet with the advisor right after, and I was telling her about that, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I can help you so much." She told me to take a 300 level, which scared me to death, English class called Immigrant Literature. I think actually the books are still behind me from that class. And the two big ones were the Joy Luck Club at the time.
Mm.
I just dated myself, and Their Eyes Were Watching God.
Mm.
And those books are still seminal books for me. And once I kind of got into that class and had the thesis paper moment, and then saw how beautiful storytelling can be and how impactful it can be, I was on my way.
Oh, great story. Great story. Mandy, back to you.
Well, I wanna bring it to current day. So tell us what you do now with your with your coaching practice. And then I have
Yeah.
a couple follow-ups.
Yeah. I've gotten really lucky. I don't know about you two, but I'd love to say that I planned all of this, but it really has been kind of a following the breadcrumbs moment and being a witness as much as a participant to my own career. And so was very senior at Participant and enjoying myself, I was starting to feel that like inner urge that there was something else that I could be doing. And I didn't exactly know what to do with it because Participant and my job in Participant were coveted. And so I didn't know where else I would go to have a more fulfilling career than I was having at that moment. So I hired a business coach. And in doing so, it didn't take long to realize that I wanted to be her. So when I left Participant, I started my own firm, and I was doing a lot of HR, people consulting at the time, and that worked out really well. But as the CEOs were saying to me, "Can you help me make my team better? Can you help me make them more productive?" I realized that I was going to have to be working with them in order for it to trickle into their team. It started at the
Yeah.
top. So I started coaching them. I would kind of say, we have to have, a session. We have to have these one-on-ones so that we can make you part of the process. And as I got more comfortable with that, the imposter syndrome started to go a little bit away a little bit. And then I ended up owning that I really did want to be a business coach. And so now it's CEOs and founders and their leadership team. I'm normally working with all of them for over 5 years. So I'm deeply embedded into the company. And it is really taking the challenges that are coming up in business and helping them strategically figure out what to do with that. But then also to see the opportunities that are in there for them and their own personal development. That ticker tape, the stories that they've been telling themselves, and how to unwind those stories and make how focused we are on what we believe work to our advantage as opposed to against us.
Yeah.
Mm.
No, yeah. For people that don't know Participant Media, can you just share, I mean, some of the productions? I know, but like, just to give people some context of like why that job was so coveted and how brave and awesome it was for you to leave that and start your own
Yeah,
situation.
it was a big deal. My company is called Jump Consulting. And the reason that I called it Jump is because it turns out that I'm a bit of a jumper. When I feel that internal itch, I'll follow the thread. And if I see enough synchronicities and breadcrumbs out there and business signal, I'll kind of go for it. So I got really lucky. I'll back up a little bit. When I was living in Delaware and decided that I wanted to do something outside of Delaware, potentially in entertainment, you pretty much are going to have to leave Delaware, I
Yeah.
think, if you want to. So I did, similar to what you were saying, Amani, I kind of looked around and was like, what's closest? Well, New York.
Mhm.
And I actually did some deep work and ended up getting a job offer for a job in New York. I couldn't leave Delaware at the time, so I commuted from Delaware to New York for a year, which is bananas. Like, it's a 2-hour plus commute each way. And then I had to, walk from Grand Central to Chelsea where the office was. But this was an entertainment law firm. I got to go to Sundance with them. I was reading scripts. It was as entry level as it gets. I was practically an intern there, but I was like so happy. I did it for a year, and it gave me enough confidence to move out to LA, where I got the job at Fox, largely because of that experience. And I was working at Fox, and I had told my boss at Fox, I love it here, but I really do kind of miss that startup vibe. There's something exciting about getting my hands in everything. And I know I'm not going to get that at Fox because it's a well-oiled machine. The next day or the day after, but like really that fast, the person that I worked for in New York called me and said, I am now living in LA, and I am basically, kind of running business affairs for this new company that just incorporated like a couple of months before. And that was Participant Media. So that's when, I searched it, and I could only find like a little blurb on Participant. It was that new. But what I learned was that the founding president of eBay had made enough money to never have to do anything he didn't want to do ever again, and decided to put his money where his heart was and start Participant Media to make movies that inspired and compelled social change. So I was pretty set that I was going to stay at Fox and just take the interview until I interviewed with Jeff, the founder, and he told me what he wanted to do. And as soon as I walked out of his office, I thought, if they offer me the job, I'm going to take it.
Mm.
So I took it. Again, it felt like a jump because Fox, I think there was even pensions back then, and it was a 3-month-old startup. Within a few months, we had the scripts for Good Night and Good Luck and North Shore, and I think it was called North Shore. It was a Charlize Theron movie, and we were talking about a movie called An Inconvenient Truth. This was
so good.
yeah, with Al Gore.
Yeah.
And we saw some, the company was so small, we could all, kind of witness what was going on. And we all believed in it. And we hit the ground running basically with An Inconvenient Truth at Sundance. And then we did The Help, Lincoln, Spotlight, Green Book. I mean, we won so many Academy Awards. We literally, I remember the movie Fooding specifically. Back then I was eating all the fast food I could get on, and they said something that has stuck with me to this day. They said, you vote basically with the decisions, with the purchases you're making. And, if you're buying things that aren't good for you or aren't good for the environment or aren't good for animals, you're voting for that. And I hadn't thought about that before. I mean, Participant was one of the few companies where they weren't just making movies that entertained us. They really were trying to move the needle. We created we called it a social action department that was unheard of. I didn't even know how to write the job descriptions and describe it back then, but we wanted to hit people at point of sale. So if you actually were watching the movie and you saw something that lit you up, we wanted to get you. So it was like text to vote when we did The Cove, which is about dolphin slaughter in Japan. Right there on the screen, you could text and you could vote, and we made real changes. We did Waiting for Superman about education, and there was a lot of campaigning going on behind that. So it was a very, very special company. That, and I made all of my friends there. My whole business came from that. The reason I was able to get so many clients afterwards was because in Los Angeles, everybody knew who Participant was.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And it feels to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I imagine that you are very led by intuition, like and it's worked for you, right? So I want to talk about instincts and intuition. So how important is this in business? That's my first question. I'll have a follow-up. And then Amani, I promise I'll turn it back over. Promise.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so happy that the statistics are catching up with how I feel about intuition. We're entering into a stage in life really where a lot of people aren't using their own minds and their own intuition for much of anything these days. Everything goes into something that you're texting on your phone or voice noting into your phone and asking a question and getting an answer back. And yet we do have this internal compass, this inner voice that's guiding us on our own. I was going to say journey, Mandi, but then I was like,
adventure. See?
Path. How about path?
Ooh, I like path.
Our own path. So listen, the military actually is training people in the military on using their intuition. I think it's over 60% now of successful entrepreneurs say that they're tapping into their intuition. And I use it with my clients all the time. It's very much about getting out of your head. I think it's really interesting when we say we tap our chests. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in there. And it's, if we can actually just kind of cut the noise a little bit in our lives and get still, it's there for us all the time.
Yeah. And how can leaders, based on your expertise, how can leaders find their intuition or just start listening? And if for some reason they're lost, how can they find it or just start listening?
Yeah. Well, I think, a lot of us, we're pretty much operating from some level of fear all the time. And if you think about fear as a closed fist, in those moments when your fist is closed, just nothing's getting in there. So there could be a really good idea or the answer to your question within you, and your fist is closed, you can't get it. So what I'm doing with my clients is helping them just create some opening in there somehow. So it's a lot of asking questions. I think that our bodies are telling us a lot, so we can do somatic work. So if I were to say, Mandi, how would you feel about not taking that speaking engagement on Tuesday and just checking in with your body and seeing how your body feels about that? Are you relieved? Does it feel good? Are you softening? Does it feel peaceful? Or are you stressed, anxious, worried, tightening up? I think those are really good indications of what's going on. I will also tell clients to ask the question of themselves and then stream of conscious journal right back there again. What would you do if you had no fear? What would you do if money, time, constraints weren't an option or a problem? I think flipping a coin, believe it or not. I did this with a client once and they're like, I'm paying you a lot of money and you're flipping a coin. If you flip a coin and say heads, I'll do it, tails, I won't do it, and it lands on whatever, then you can see how you feel about that. And that's going to guide you somewhere. I also like the idea, if you guys ever tried to find your phone, your keys, your sunglasses, and you've looked extensively and they're gone, it's gone. You finally give up and go and do something else, and you remember where you found. So I think it's the same thing with the answer. If the fist is clenched, nada. So go ahead and ask the question. We actually have a mind that is focused on whatever we tell it to, and then go do something fun. Go walk the beach, go play some music, go paint, go to a class. It's the answers are going to come. They'll come to you from the inside. It's always like a whisper. The ego, the mind is always never, it's judgmental, it's loud, it's incessive. The inner voice is quiet. Maybe you should start a podcast. Maybe you should take that speaking gig on Tuesday. Why not consider it? It will guide you lightly. And in doing that, for myself and just seeing with my clients, I actually see where it's paid off, where these crazy decisions that you almost can't explain why you would do something like take a job in New York that's hours away by train, where it's not even for more pay, it's for less pay. And it ends up being the only reason that you got the job at Participant Media, which changed your whole life. I listened to a few of your podcasts because they're amazing. And
thank you.
On your podcast, I thought I wrote her name down. Something Renee. She had like 3 names, and
Christy, Christy,
branding expert. Do you remember she said that she went to an event and part of the reason she was there was to actually find a coach, and she tried to get 3 different coaches, and each one kind of backed out for some odd reason. And then she ended up meeting a TEDx executive, and that TEDx executive kind of brought her in, and she helped her launch her speaking business and her own business. That's what I'm talking about. But I would say if we were to get her back on right now, she might very well say there was an inner voice. There was some vibe that she was going with that said, maybe you should go to that conference. Why don't you try to get a business? Why don't you try to get a coach? Talk to someone. And that's the breadcrumb that she needed, to meet with the person that she was meant to meet with all along. I just see it all the time. I actually have clients where I think they are so intuitive that I tell them to just send themselves a voice note every time they get a hit and then follow it and just see for yourself. See what happens.
That's powerful.
It's fun.
Agreed. Well, we've come to the point in the show where it's time for us to flip the script and allow you to ask both myself and Mandi any question you like. So who do you want to ask the question to first, and what is said question?
I feel like I have to ask about intuition in your own businesses because so I'm going to see where this goes, but we'll start with Mandy.
Okay.
And the question is, can you think of a time where you used your intuition or followed some breadcrumbs, basically went against what might be the typical decision you'd make and made a business or a career change that involved your intuition or those breadcrumbs?
I mean, my whole being is about following intuition, and only because there have been so many times where I haven't,
Mm-hmm.
and I look back and I'm like, "Oh, I knew it," and it's just a practice for me. But there's one specific time. I'm writing a book about this in the future. So that's why I was asking you about business and intuition, because I'm very interested in this. But there's one specific time very early on in my career where I had a vendor in my office, and he was selling me something, and it was this thing where I just saw his face. He smiled, and that, like, there was a gleam on his, like, teeth, like in the cartoons where you're like, this is a bad guy. Like, there was just like a trickster. Like, I saw the shiny thing on his tooth. I saw the wink wink. I almost heard the do, 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 like in the like in a cartoon. And I didn't work with them, and I should have worked with him. Like, he worked for a big magazine. He could have put our business on the map. And when he left the office, I was like, I am not doing anything with that guy. Lo and behold, 6 months later, he was in the newspaper for embezzling money from a whole bunch of advertisers. And I was very young. And I remember at that time, I took some heat for not working with, like, we're so lucky that this guy wants to work with us, like, whatever it takes. And I was like, no, we're not working. I just felt it. And the times that I haven't followed my intuition, I go back to that image. That image was 20 plus years ago. I go back to that visual of like, whoa. And then another time, this is a personal thing, but I had a doctor's appointment at a consult. I was just talking to a girlfriend about this the other day. And the doctor came into the office. I immediately felt like I was suffocating. He didn't say a word. Like, the office got thick. I felt like I was suffocating, and my ears started ringing and my palms started getting sweaty. And I was like, I can't let this guy operate on me. Like, I just knew it. And I didn't have any other reason except for that thickness that I felt. And then he left, and I don't know what happened to him. And I got somebody else to do the procedure. But like, I listen because I've learned. When I didn't listen, I think that's the lesson for me.
That's great. I really appreciate that. It's funny because I'll say often to my clients that there's a big should and a little should, a capital S and a little S. And I think the ego is like, you should, go with that guy with the glimmer on his tooth. Who cares what your gut's saying? Like, he's a great get. And then there's the little should, which is more of your intuition that's much softer, saying, think about that. Just think about that for a minute. Do a little bit more research. Do a little bit more digging before. Don't say yes right away. There's something to this. Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
pause for a moment. I think the interesting thing too is, I have anxiety disorder. I've had it for my whole life. I was just diagnosed like 11 years ago, but it's something I work through on a daily basis. It's something I manage, right? Like, we all have things that we manage. But something I struggle with is like, is this my really keen intuition, or is this my anxiety talking? So I have to really stop throughout the day and have some talks with myself. I'll be like, close your eyes, get in a quiet space and listen. Is this coming from your gut, or is this coming from your head? Like, where is this coming from? And I think a lot of people with a good intuition, and a lot of people with some level of anxiety, claimed anxiety, not like, oh, I'm so anxious today, but like real, actual diagnosed anxiety. I think that's a problem, right? Like, I think that's my struggle with between
Yeah.
anxiety and
And
intuition.
we're going to get to you, Amani, but just for conversation for another day, are you familiar with what empathic means, being
Yes.
empathic?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do think that we're all empathic, but I think some have it a little bit more than others. And if you are, then you're more sensitive to things, and you can also pick up people's energies a lot easier. So that could be something, to look into for yourself. Like, how much am I just, you're coaching people, you're interviewing people, you're around a lot of energy, there's probably a lot of stress. and then how much are you actually taking into the body, and then the body, of course, is giving you all those clues that that you might need to regulate. Yeah.
It's
And
interesting.
release
Interesting.
release those connections. All right, we
Yeah.
gave you lots of time, Amani.
Right. Same question for me.
I would love that. Do you want me to repeat the question?
Oh, I remember it well. I remember it well. So I'm thinking, like, for me, so many examples. I'll think of two. When I was coming to the end of my time with Marriott, and people like, oh, you should never leave that. It's like a nice 6-figure job. But I was like, no, I think there's something else better than me out here. I know it's going to be a rough road, a long road, but I got to go because this is not good for me. And so that was an instance where I followed my intuition and left. And it was not easy, but I'm in a much better place now than where I would have been, I think, if I'd stayed, although I'm probably making more money currently, but it's just better in the long run. So I think that's one. I think number two, recently I was given advice before my book came out about maybe changing the title and adding more information into the book, which would have definitely steered me probably down the wrong road. So the combination of my intuition as well as my writing team kind of got me back on the straight path. And then I think, personally, like this different relationships that you're like, I'm not sure this person is the best for me. But then fear comes in, and maybe fear of being alone. So you accept it. That's when I didn't follow my intuition and got burned.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
that's great. Yeah.
yeah,
I think the three of us have led so many different careers, and I think each one was the one for us at the time. And I would imagine if we were keeping an intuition journal along the way, we would probably find that there was a lot of signal that we were picking up on, like the tooth, either a yes or no, that helped us make these big decisions where it feels like, well, you went from this career to that career, and we don't see the through line, but we felt something,
yeah,
and of course there was a through line, and yeah, we followed it, and it's made all the difference.
exactly. Now, if we were to go back and talk to Laurie when she's just about to graduate, University of Delaware, back to Dover. That's in Dover, right?
It's in Newark, Delaware. Yeah,
Newark,
Delaware
Delaware.
is definitely the capital, and
The
I've
capital.
driven through it many times to get to Dewey Beach, Delaware, which is still
Okay. Oh,
a
yes, yes. I
place
know
in my
about
heart.
Dewey Beach. Yes. And we were to talk to Laurie, excuse me, back then, based on everything that you've learned in life so far, what advice would you give your younger self?
So I've done this quite a few times. It's a practice that I do in my own journaling, and I do with my clients. Write a letter to your younger self, write a letter to
Mhm.
your older self, write a letter from your younger self,
Yeah.
write a
Yeah.
letter from your older self. Uh, I would. I'm trying to remember what I said to her back then, but I'm just thinking of her in my mind's eye right now. I would tell her to go easy on herself, not to worry so much, that everything was going to be okay, that it's all good, even when it's bad, and good things will come from your mistakes and the challenges, and it's life, and it goes by so fast, so much faster than you realize, and it's meant to be messy, and you're meant to just dig in and experience as much as you can. So get in there and have fun and enjoy every moment, no matter what's coming your way. It's going to work out.
Excellent. Excellent. Mandy, what do you have to kind of close us out?
I have two final questions completely unrelated to each other. So the first question is, why are butterflies your love language?
So that's right. We did. Oh my gosh. I love the metaphor. I mean, the fact, and I think we're all three examples, and probably so many of your listeners, that we start out as a caterpillar, and if we're wise, we don't fight the moment where we need to pause and allow ourselves to transform. you know Nature doesn't fight that, but I think a lot of us do, because we let the fear get in the way. So to be able to go from a caterpillar into a cocoon, dissolve into absolutely nothing. It's like the ultimate phoenix process, and then emerge as a butterfly. The other thing I like about the butterfly metaphor is, did you know that if you help a butterfly out of its cocoon, if you actually see it emerging and you think, I'm going to just, rip it open a little bit and help it out, you could really weaken the butterfly, that it actually needs the struggle of getting out of the cocoon to strengthen its wings. I think that's just a perfect metaphor for life. And they're just so darn pretty. And when I got to see the face of a butterfly up close, because I happen to have one that's visiting me these days, they're pretty cute.
They're really pretty.
I
They're
love
really
it.
pretty. Well, you've spent so much time with us, and we really appreciate the time. How can we give back to you? How can we lift you up? How can we support you?
It was a joy. I mean, I would do this anytime. You're both so lovely. I think Amani has the best laugh.
He
Every time I listen
does.
to your podcast, when he laughs, it makes me happy.
Oh,
Yeah, really. And you two have such a great relationship. I want to do a little bit more of this. When I started the newsletter in October, it really was because I wanted to try to give back in some way. I've been pretty happy behind the scenes being the person behind these businesses. And I still like to stay behind the scenes, but I think it's time to start sharing more. So if there's a way to continue conversations like these and get out there a little bit more, I would welcome that. Yeah. And then obviously, if you wanted to come to Substack and check out Soul Business, my newsletter, and the Instagram, I think you've got that, and probably my LinkedIn. I also have a website, just my name, laurieluh.com. But yeah, come and see what I'm up to. And I'm always sharing tips and tools and stories, composite stories about my time with my clients, so that it's enjoyable as well as you learn something.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, because I think being able to read people's stories without disclosing who they are, right? You're not disclosing the confidentiality. You're just saying, hey, here's a client that experienced this, and here's how this person got out of it. It's just, I think people relate to that more. So I love seeing that on Substack or LinkedIn, or so keep sharing more of those, because those stories help us. Like, they help us get out of a tangle if we're in one. It's just very relatable that way.
Yeah. You can actually learn 20 times faster if you are told by story. I mean, that's why these podcasts are so successful.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I love that. I didn't know that stat. That's a great stat.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we appreciate you being on the show. We thank Lyndall for introducing us. We'll definitely keep in touch and learn more from you. We'll give you a round of applause. We'll put you in the green room. So hold on really quickly. Round of applause here. You might not hear it, but it's there.
Thank you, Laurie. So good to meet you.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, Mandy, I think you had something you wanted to share with the audience.
Yes, I have a favor to ask of our awesome audience.
Yes.
It means so much to us when we can share this show with more and more people. And the way to share it as an audience member is to subscribe on our podcast. Subscribe, go to YouTube and just click that bell. Go to Spotify, go to Apple Podcasts and click follow, click subscribe. That's the way we actually can share the podcast with more and more people. If you happen to follow us on LinkedIn, Adventures in Business Live, or you follow us on Instagram, drop a comment, because that will show up in more people's feeds. As we know, the currency is in the comments. And, as we try and grow the show, it's not just to grow it, to get bigger, better, but it also is to be able to impact more and more people. And the more people we can impact, the more we can help deliver these great messages, and we can help people grow their business or start a business or make a leap from a corporate to entrepreneurial venture. So I just have a plea and a request for our audience, just to rate and review and seek that out and continue to engage with us, as we appreciate you. And we want to continue to do more of this for you.
And with that, that's a perfect way to close out the show. We will see you next time. Thank you for watching, and thanks to our guest today, Laurie Luh. Take care, everyone.
Bye.